The middle class group in Korea has expanded along with the country's economic growth, but the income gap between the middle and upper classes has widened to its highest level, according to an analysis.
경제 성장의 영향으로 우리나라 중산층 비중은 늘고 있지만 중산층과 상류층 간 소득 격차는 사상 최대로 벌어졌다는 분석이 나왔습니다. It's interesting how it's getting, more people are sort of in that middle class.
That's right.
And yet the difference, the gap is widening.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting. So this analysis came from Mail Business newspaper, and they were using Statistics Korea's income distribution and social survey data. So this was all data compiled by Statistics Korea.
Right.
So the things that they were looking at here is, so there's 5 tiers.
Okay.
And the middle class is considered the third tier. So this was the middle class, if we're looking at a monthly income of 4.49 million won in 2022. Now, the income of households in the top tier, which we'll call the highest class, the upper class, 13 million won per month. So this income gap stood, so that the gap between the third tier and the fifth tier, 8.5 million won, and that's the highest since these type of statistics began to be compiled back in 2011.
Well, let's talk about that expression there, gap. We're talking
Gap
about
means space in general. Some people have a gap between their teeth.
Yep.
You'll say that.
In the UK, you might hear mind the gap.
You hear that a lot,
The
right,
subway
on the subway,
station,
right?
yeah.
But and in some subway stations in Seoul actually have quite a large gap. You have to be careful. Some
Really?
do, yeah,
Oh,
not all,
okay,
but there
right.
are a few that I know of.
Right. Most of the subways here, of course, do have those screen doors, but some don't. So I guess.
No, even with the screen door, I just mean there's a bit of a gap between
I
the
see.
platform and the
Right.
train. And that's what they mean by mean the gap in London, because there is quite a big one. You definitely got to be careful when you step off.
네, 이 틈이라는 뜻이 있어서요. 영국에서 Mind the Gap라는 방송을 들으신 적이 있으실 것 같은데 뭐냐면은 그 전철을 탈 때요, 기차를 탈 때라든지 승강장과 그 다음에 열차 사이의 간격을 말합니다. 그래서 이게 넓으니까 발 조심하세요라는 뜻으로 Mind the Gap라고 하고요. 아까 teeth 얘기를 했는데 이제 이 사이에 좀 이제 틈이 있으면 I have a gap between my teeth 이렇게 말할 수도 있고. But here it's the income gap.
Income gap. So
Yeah.
this is the difference between income earned, and we usually talk about it between different demographic segments, different groups of people. So
Sure.
we could talk about the income gap between rich and poor, and in this case, the income gap between the upper and middle class.
Exactly. 여기서 말하는 거는 이제 소득의 격차가 되겠습니다. Income gap. And that has widened.
Right, and if anyone who's watching can see Sue's hands, when something widens, it becomes bigger, becomes larger.
네, 점점 넓어졌다라는 뜻이 되겠습니다. Here's the headline again. The middle class group in Korea has expanded along with the country's economic growth, but the income gap between the middle and upper classes has widened to its highest level, according to an analysis.